Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to our series on trying to work out a 2025 price target for Tesla that can easily be understood with a base that can be used by everyone to base their own estimates. In the previous video, we estimated what proportion of each variant of model will be sold, along with their estimated prices and battery size. In this video, we're going to estimate what production capacity each factory should be at in 2025. So let's start with Fremont. With the new Model S and X refreshes, demand has definitely risen, and Elon has said they are opening up another production line. This will take the quarterly production to around 30,000 cars, around where they were at their peak prior to the Model 3 launch, which equates to 120,000 cars annually. Of course, by 2025, there should be more efficiencies, and the car will have more features and become better value. But in the luxury car market, there are simply only so many consumers who can afford such cars. Just because they have become even more impressive doesn't mean more consumers will have more money to afford them. On the other hand, we are seeing the likes of Mercedes S-Class sales dwindling, so it's likely more luxury car owners will switch brands. So by 2025, I'm estimating 150,000 total sales for S and X. Current production capacity for Model 3 and Y is at 500,000 cars. Fremont would have moved over to 4680 batteries by this stage, and thus increase capacity and production speed. Elon has openly said Fremont could reach 1 million a year capacity. He thought this was achievable by 2020, so perhaps by 2025 it actually might have. So that would leave 850,000 Model 3s and Model Ys. So if we split those in half, we're left with 425,000 each. Equally, we should see a similar number from Shanghai factories by this stage. Seriously, look at what progress Tesla have made in manufacturing just in the last few years. And don't forget Elon stipulating he thinks that they can increase production speed 10 to 100 times faster. With manufacturing being Tesla's main focus, we could see 1 million cars out of Shanghai. The current capacity is 250,000 Model 3s and 200,000 Model Ys. So if we keep those proportions with 1 million cars, then we reach 550,000 Model 3s and 450,000 Model Ys. For Berlin, we have an assumed 1 million Model Ys a year from the current factory, and then an expected Model 3 factory coming soon too, perhaps at the same capacity. We're at 2 million. Berlin is already the most advanced factory and has a lot of new efficiencies already included. So on the conservative side, let's say production has increased only 25% for these two factories by 2025, giving a total of 2.5 million cars or 1.25 million Model Ys and Model 3s. Then we have the juggernaut known as Giga Austin. I think the Model 3 and Model Y factories will be of similar output to Berlin, so 1.25 million each. Then we have the almighty Cybertruck. Over 3 million pickup trucks are sold a year in the US alone, but I think the Cybertruck has more vast applications than a traditional pickup truck and will appeal to a broader market. I myself have put down a deposit on a Cybertruck, and prior to its launch, I would have never considered purchasing a pickup truck. But I am conservatively going to place a 500,000 a year Cybertruck sales figure, but it's highly possible this could take Ford's F-150 pole position of around 1 million sales a year. So a Semitruck is also known as a Class 8 truck, and we can see that in 2019 there were 276,000 Class 8 truck sales in the US alone. Obviously, with something as heavy as a Semitruck and the load they carry, the fuel costs a lot. They tend to get about 6.5 mpg, and a gallon of diesel is about $3. Semitrucks tend to use diesel due to a higher BTU of energy, giving it more fuel efficiency. So with some quick calculations here, we come to approximately a cost of 50 cents a mile. Now, we also calculated Tesla's Semitruck at 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile. At around 15 cents a kilowatt hour, we're at half the price of a diesel semi. If the average Semitruck does 1 million miles in its life, then that is a cost saving of about $250,000. In other words, you save more money on fuel than the actual price of Tesla's Semitruck. And that doesn't even factor in the servicing costs or the fact they drive themselves, as in no cost of $50,000 a year for a truck driver. In other words, what logistics associated company would not want to buy a Semitruck? So Tesla can sell every truck they make, but it's at the opportunity cost of selling perhaps 10 cars too. So I'm going to put 100,000 Semitruck sales, although I'm tempted to go higher. On Battery Day, Tesla said that 30% of batteries will be used for semi and commercial vehicles. But this was in 2030, and perhaps there's still too much opportunity cost in 2025. That figure does likely also include all sorts of other commercial vehicles that have yet to be released. Now, the Roadster will not be a big seller. In fact, I think Tesla are only really making the car for publicity, just to prove how much better electric cars are than ICE. And a $200,000 price tag, there aren't going to be too many people who can afford that. Even Ferrari only sell around 10,000 cars a year. Sure, they are slower and have much higher running costs, but I'm going to place 5,000 Roadster sales a year. I think it is possible the van might also be made in Texas, as there is so much capacity on that site, then they could easily build another factory. The Ford Transit sells about 150,000 a year, so Tesla could be in at around 100,000 vans a year. Okay, now we start moving on to the new factories. In Tesla's 2020 Q3 10Q SEC filing, Tesla announced, owing and subject to the foregoing as well as the pipeline of announced projects under development and all other continuing infrastructure growth, we currently expect our capital expenditures to be at the high end of our range of $2.5 to $3.5 billion in 2020 and increase to $4.5 to $6 billion in each of the next 2 fiscal years. So there are definitely plans for more factories over the next couple of years. And Tesla have announced that they're going to build the Model 2 in China. And no, it won't be a new line in their existing factories. The Model 2 is set to be the biggest selling car in history. Now, already, we're up to nearly 5 million Model Ys and Model 3s a year, and this car is meant to be the main robotaxi car, which is what will likely be Tesla's most profitable side of the business. They are not messing around with this factory. They have the luxury of taking all the time they need to get this car and factory sorted, whilst they're sorting out the necessary battery production in order to do so. We should see a preview of the car later this year, and according to Elon on Battery Day, they should be coming off the production line at the end of 2022. We're discussing 2025. By then, they should have ramped up to full capacity, of which I am assigning 5 million cars a year. That's right. I believe that Tesla will have created a factory that is capable of doing 5 million Model 2s a year. It will be utilizing every single economy of scale under the sun, along with cheaper labor and overall cheaper manufacturing costs in China. China is also quite possibly the largest market for these cars, and the next largest will be Europe. Compact cars are not so popular in the US. Who knows? They may not even sell them there, as they don't want to cannibalize their other more profitable models. And Model 3 and Y are capable enough for robotaxis. But what about batteries? Well, according to our analysis, it's probably less than 250 gigawatt hours of batteries. Berlin alone is expected to produce that many batteries. So in 2022, Tesla will be focused on their Model 2 factory. But we're already hearing potential announcements of new factories, such as India and the UK, but nothing official yet. But I think we can add 2 more factories by 2025 for good measure. Where will they be? I don't know. And as to what capacity, it will be hard to tell. Given Japan is one of the largest car markets in the world, there could be one there. The factories might be smaller perhaps, with fewer lines, and maybe in the UK or even Australia. And Tesla still have South America to enter too. So these are just guesses here, and I'd like to keep them relatively small with their Model Y and Model 3, with capacities at 1 million total. So when we add up all the units of cars, we come in at 14 million cars for 2025. Oops, did we go wrong somewhere? Well, we've justified all the numbers, how we reached here, based on markets and Tesla's potential, and this is the number we got. Is that absurd? Well, let's delve closer into it. Elon replied to a tweet from my favourite Tesla bull, Cathie Wood, about when the world would reach over 30 million annual EV sales a year. This tweet is not talked about nearly enough. The tweet is dated from September 2020. Elon says that for sure this will be achieved in 7 years, maybe 6 years, and 5 years is possible, but unlikely. Now this is all EVs, but we've just seen that the number 2 potential player is capable of and aiming for something like 4 million EVs by 2030. So this tweet is really about Tesla's potential, if you read between the lines. So going by this scale, 14 million vehicles is not out of the question for 2025. Of course, Tesla and Elon could just be wrong, but remember, we are basing this model on what Tesla and Elon have been telling us. That was the basis of the entire model. In the next video, we'll start putting more things together and see how far we can get. Thanks for listening, please hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.